Regulatory Quest, Zimbabwe's journey towards comprehensive online gambling laws.
So joining me on stage for an amazing keynote is Simbarashe Absolom Murondoti, the senior partner of Absolom and Shepherd attorneys. Take it away, thank you.
Thanks a lot, and thank you, SiGMA, for this invitation. I'm going to start my keynote by telling you a story about elevators. It's a story that completely changed the way I view elevators. It ruined elevators for me. I'm at a conference far away from home, and I get into an elevator, and just as the door is about to close, this lovely couple joins me, and now it's the three of us. After a moment of weird silence, then something unimaginable happened. All of a sudden, they could not keep their eyes, hands, and even lips away from each other. And ladies and gentlemen, it came with the full package. Heightened breathing, loaded tension, and then it made me feel so uncomfortable. Now, when I step into an elevator, I cannot help but think, whatever happened to that lovely couple? What are the odds they are still together? What are the chances that they are still together? A ride up an elevator takes me in the world of odds, chances, and uncertainty, the very concepts on which gambling industry thrives. And these concepts, ladies and gentlemen, I put it to you that they are responsible for this industry, and this industry has grown on these principles. And now, the question of what happened to those two is just as good as the question of whether or not Mo Salah is going to score a goal when next Liverpool plays Manchester City. And I hope he doesn't. Ladies and gentlemen, uncertainty, improbability is responsible for this growing industry in Africa with projected revenues close on 1.85 billion. That's billion with a B. Now, we have almost managed to gamble with anything as the human race, but there is one thing we cannot afford to gamble with, and that's the laws that govern our gambling industry. And yet, if we self-introspect, it seems we've been gambling with these laws. Let me talk about Zimbabwe, where I come from. We have for ourselves a teapot-shaped nation where internet penetration was at over 61% as of 2022. People are gambling on the internet. And yet the law in Zimbabwe that governs gambling, the Lotteries and Gaming Act, is from as far back as 1998, amended in 2000, amended in 2001, and in 2004, and that's it. In the mind of the innocent drafter from 1998, it was inconceivable, ladies and gentlemen, that people would gamble, transact, and even meet their soulmates online. It was certainly unthinkable. And yet, that is the law that still governs us. So here's the catch. The law presents in Section 31 this rule that you cannot undertake the gambling industry unless you are licensed. That's well and fine. But inextricably linked to the concept of a license is this concept of a licensed premises. The idea that license is linked to a premises that has to be under roof and tile and with brick and mortar. So the laws we are using are archaic, and it seems we are passing up on an opportunity. And yet in real time, people are gambling away online. So what do we do about it? But before we get there, ladies and gentlemen, is the question of why we do not have a law that permits gambling online. When you search the laws, there is no provision in this act I refer to or its supporting regulations that bans online gambling. So is it allowed? Well, some people will tell you it's allowed, but equally so, there is no provision that allows it, and there is no framework for an application for a license for gambling online. The result is that the law as it stands today is a gray area. But in so doing, I put it to you that we are passing up on a tremendous opportunity. We are missing a tremendous opportunity to regulate an industry that can portend tremendous growth for the people in Zimbabwe and for the ladies and gentlemen in this room. So ladies and gentlemen, what is the problem? Well, by observation, I found that the default human response to innovative change, where they don't understand it, has been to ban. Ask Travis Kalanick of Uber. He says, I want to give you a way that strangers can ride around town with you for a lower fee than the traditional taxi. How do we respond? Ban. Ask Bitcoin. Hey, here's a way to transact with a decentralized currency. How does humanity respond when they don't understand? They ban. Ask any innovation in the history of anything, what the response has been to innovative change, which we don't understand. Ban it. But I'm thankful, ladies and gentlemen, because the Zimbabwean government has announced that it embarked on a process to amend the laws, more or less like what happened in South Africa through the 2008 amendment, so that there is a framework that supports online gambling. And boy, do we need it. Because as unimportant as the question of what happens to those two lovebirds I met in St. Petersburg, the question of whether or not we need responsible gambling frameworks is very crucial. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy that a process has been commenced towards that, and it will look at ethical ways to enhance and protect our gambling. I'm about to leave the stage, but I'm going to leave you with a few names. Ono Chikua Richard, Tafadzwa Kakungwa. These names, ladies and gentlemen, are names that belong to people who lost their lives in online gambling gone wrong. Real people. They had families. They had hopes and aspirations. So the question of what happened to those two lovebirds in St. Petersburg is not as important as the more pressing, pertinent question. What is the real cost of our failure to regulate online gambling? I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think actually we have a couple of minutes, so let's maybe extend it out to one question we have in the audience. Does anyone have a question out there? Is anyone awake this morning? Any question? We have one question here. Do we have a microphone for this gentleman?
Good morning to everyone. I just wanted to ask about what you feel would be the best framework for online gambling in terms of the legal side of things in Zimbabwe, seeing that Zimbabwe is lagging behind from everyone. I think there's an advantage in that because they could take learnings from other countries and implement them. So what would you say would be the best legal frameworks to have for online gambling?
Right. Thank you very much. The best framework must be a framework which I think protects minors, because there is always the question of minors engaging in gambling. And when it's online, it can be hard to detect that minors are undertaking gambling. We now have the advent of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and I believe that can be used to, protect minors and to protect people who shouldn't be gambling from gambling. Artificial intelligence is a huge deal. I was involved in drafting, on behalf of the Law Society of Zimbabwe, the ICT guidelines that govern the legal profession. And one of the questions was artificial intelligence. And you can use artificial intelligence to detect behavioral patterns that are happening online, and that can be used to detect whether or not a person that should be gambling is gambling. I think regulation must impose duties on the corporate world to ensure that those protections are in place, because constitutionally, any business must be undertaken with the best interests of the child in mind. And vulnerable people must be protected.
Amazing. Another big round of applause, everyone, for our incredible speaker.